AB5 author Lorena Gonzalez may relax rules for freelance writers and photographers. So this is one of those articles. I actually didn't read this at all ahead of time. I don't even know what's going to be in here, but I know the topic. So if you guys haven't been paying attention to what's going on in California with AB5, this is a law that pretty much, it fucks over independent contractors, basically. It really screws them up the ass. The main target of this law, I think, was Uber and Lyft. I believe they were the main target of it, to force Uber and Lyft to hire their drivers as full-time employees instead of contractors. And here's where it gets funny. The journalists, all of them, with very few exceptions, they supported this. Like, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. All those poor Uber drivers can now finally become real employees and blah, blah. It turns out they are also affected by this law. The same shit they tried to force on other people, as soon as they found out they're not exempt from it and they themselves have to abide by these rules, you would not believe the stink they raised. They went from wholeheartedly supporting this law when it was only other people that it was going to fuck over, to just shrieking that it's the worst thing ever once they realized it's also going to affect them. Because this is the same law that makes it so you can't write, for the same outlet as an independent contractor more than, was it like 35 articles a year or something like that? And most of these journalists who supported this law that fucks over independent contractors are themselves independent contractors. And here's where it gets even funnier. So you would think that they would, if they weren't NPCs and they had even the slightest bit of self-awareness, they would realize that this law is horrible, it was a bad idea, and it should be completely repealed. No. That's not how they're going to fix this. No. The solution to this isn't to repeal this bogus bullshit law. It's just to make the journalists exempt, so they can force this bullshit on everybody else, whereas they can just get off scot-free. It doesn't affect them. And that's what they're going to be talking about. Now, the chief architect of California's sweeping new employment classification law said Thursday that her office will push to amend it to roll back restrictions on freelance journalists and photographers. See, maybe if all the other contractors raised as big of, if not a bigger stink, they could do the same thing. Some freelance journalists say the new law, AB5, severely restricts their ability to work. But they were perfectly fine until they found out it was going to affect them. That's why I'm laughing so hard at these idiots. As long as it was only other people who were going to have their ability to work restricted, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. Oh, wait, it's going to affect me too? Whee! The law, which took effect January 1st, aims to rein in companies' use of independent contractors to ensure more workers receive employment protections such as minimum wage, overtime pay, and workers' compensation insurance. Hey, if this is what these journalists want for everybody else, why the fuck don't they want it for themselves? Makes no sense. The law's author, Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, wrote in a series of twats that she will introduce legislation to tweak and clarify the law and ease its implementation. Oh, fuck no. This needs to be all or nothing. Everybody else needs to just put their foot down. It's like, fuck no. Either we all suffer under this bullshit, or you just repeal it and none of us suffer. You can choose. But we're not going to do this double standard shit. So changes include removing the 35 article per year limit on freelance submissions before a journalist must be classified as a part or full-time employee, and clarifying that photographers and videographers can sell their work through platforms such as Getty and Shutterstock without being classified as employees. No, that's a bullshit. Either you remove this shit for everybody, or just make everybody suffer equally. Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Christy Smith, and a dozen other legislators also requested $20 million to fund a grant program for small nonprofit community arts programs to support them as they work to transition contractors to employees to comply with AB5. So it's just an excuse to leech more money out of taxpayers. That makes sense. All right, so this additional funding for small nonprofit arts organizations will ensure we can more quickly transition to an economy that treats all workers fairly and with dignity. Unless there are our main backers, then they get exempted from it, of course. Because that's just how we roll around here. Gonzalez introduced AB 5 1850 in the early January as a placeholder legislation to correct and clarify AB 5. Gonzalez, who has met with various critics of the law since its enactment, said she plans to introduce changes for musicians, fine artists, small businesses, and others in incoming months. Yeah, pretty much anyone who supports her gets a free pass. It's just like how Congress voted themselves to be exempt from Obamacare. That just shows how much faith they have in it. So freelancers worried that under AB 5's restrictions, publishers would stop working with them rather than convert them to employees as advocates of the law intended. No fucking shit! You think that's not going to happen with all the other guys you're trying to screw over with this? Most companies are just not going to hire these people. But I mean, they're okay if it happens to somebody else. They just don't want it happening to them. So in December, 2 groups representing freelance writers and photographers filed a lawsuit in federal courts in Los Angeles alleging that AB 5 unconstitutionally restricts free speech and the media. But you guys were all for this until you found out you're going to be affected too. It's kind of fucking hypocritical that now you're having second thoughts. So the freelancers are just one of several groups that have pushed back against the new law. The California Trucking Association filed a lawsuit last year arguing that it hurt their ability to provide services. In December, U.S. District Judge Roger Benitez of San Diego granted temporary exemption for the independent truck drivers. Last month, L.A. County Superior Court judge ruled the law does not apply to thousands of independent truck drivers because AB 5 is preempted by federal law. Ooh. Gig economy companies such as Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash have launched an expensive campaign against the legislation, arguing that treating workers as employees would hobble them in California, one of their biggest markets. The companies have submitted a California ballot measure proposal to exempt their businesses from the law. Yeah, so now it's just the law. This is going to be one of those funny situations. Watch, the law is still on the books, but just everybody's exempted from it. Wouldn't that just be spectacular? In case some of you aren't aware yet, we actually have launched the Blade Devil merch shop. Link in the description box. So if you've ever wanted to support the channel but actually wanted something physical in return, we got the shop for you now. Lots of good stuff up in here. So if you would like any of those, or just in general want to support the channel, want to support original content, original products, like Diversity in Comics always used to say, then this is probably the best way to do it. So check it out. We're going to be adding new items on a monthly basis, at least in the near future. So check back often, and independent projects like the ones we're working on are only possible thanks to you guys. So appreciate all of your support.